This ain't gonna do. This isn't gonna do at all. Huh. That's better. But now, my head's cold. What are we going to be doing today? Well, I got a few things I need to cover. I don't know that I'm going to get much done today. If you hadn't noticed, if you were paying attention, I didn't get a video out last Friday. This is Monday, this is Martin Luther King Day. I'm just now starting to record something. I will probably be working on a set of Fireplace doors here in a minute. I'm going to start cutting some of the, cutting the framework for it. And then I'll have to run it up and test fit it, make sure it fits. But I got kind of a little bit of a setback that I haven't really, when you don't have something, you don't know you miss it, and then when you have it and it's gone, you kind of miss it. Well, the guy that I built the boxes for his trailer, the plasma cutter and the little DC welder, little inverter welder that was set up for TIG, those were both his. He had me do some repair work to both of them. He wanted me to get them running, and he had just left them, and they were available, so I used the plasma cutter. And since he took them, they were his. I mean, that's not the issue. I sometimes think it sounds a little bit like I'm whining about it, but the issue is now I've got to find. I really kind of need a plasma cutter to do some of the stuff that I had planned on doing, and at least it'd make it a lot easier. And so I've been looking for a plasma cutter, and I don't know whether to. The plasma cutter that he had, that I was using, was that Miller. It's a something Miller 625, whatever it is, and they're about $1,800 new. I'm not Daddy Warbucks, so $1,800 is kind of steep for me right now. I'm kind of willing to do it just because I know it's a good machine and I like Miller, and it would be kind of an investment piece for me. There are certain tools that I like to buy good quality, things like the welder. The welders that I have are good name brand welders. I did look at like the Harbor Freight brand little plasma cutter, and I read the reviews about it. It's one of those, yeah, it works, it probably works just fine, but then you start reading the reviews, and people that have actually used plasma cutters don't have quite the same review as people who say, this is the first plasma cutter I've ever had. They talk about using consumables too quickly. They talk about the arc wanders, so that it doesn't necessarily cut the way you want, cut where you're wanting it to, that kind of thing. So which kind of brings me to another issue. I expected to find a whole bunch of them in Craigslist, which we're probably going to make a little bit of a paradigm shift in where I'm going with a lot of what I've been doing. I've never considered myself a welder. I've always kind of considered myself an artist welder type thing, and more of a metal artist than a welder. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to hone too much of the actual artistry of it. And those of you who've been with me for a while, you know that a lot of this started, a lot of what the YouTube channel started was with the blacksmith forge and building a forge and the bellows and the whole thing like that. Well, I'd like to get back into that, but it has to be profitable for me in some way. I can't just do it as a hobby. I have to, this is how I eat, is by the things that I make. And unfortunately, right now it's kind of hit and miss. I've got projects that are outstanding. I'm waiting for deposits. I'm waiting for go-aheads. I'm always waiting on something. That's just the way it works. I would like to start building some pieces on my own, non-commissioned work. In particular, functional art, things like tables and chairs and small furniture pieces to start with. But right now, I do have a few things I need to get done first, and there are some. That's kind of the direction we're going. I mean, it's not. I am going in that direction. We will get to some of that stuff, but right now, actually, I'll put it to you. If you're watching this and you have experience with plasma cutters, what do you recommend? I've looked at. Obviously, I've looked at Miller. Lincoln has a similar one. They're all about the same price, those two. There's a few other brands, out there, but then there's the things like the little budget brands, things like Harbor Freight has theirs. Eastwood has one that piqued my curiosity. I don't know anything about Eastwood. I've never even touched an Eastwood anything. I don't know anybody that has one. I've never used one. So, in the comments, if you've got something that you recommend that you say, hey, you know what, you can't do better than this for the biggest bang for the buck, put it down there. I might see it before I actually go out and buy something, but and then look into it. But today, like I said, we're going to start cutting the framework for this this set of doors, and it's going to start off with, I think, hopefully I have enough material. I don't want to have to go out and buy any, but if I have to, I will. But I think what we're going to start with is a framework that is 1.5 inch, or it's half. No, it'd be 3/8 by 1.5 flat bar. So once I get the garage opened up and get the 50 out of the way, we're going to start pulling some materials and start and cutting and then tacking it together to the right skeleton of what we need. And if that's all I get done today, then we're doing good. So let's get started. well, that's about all I'm going to get done for today on this guy. Anyway, got other things I got to do in the house today, but like I said, this is what's going to happen next with this is I'm going to have to drive it. I'm going to drive it up to where it's going to be installed, where it's going to, well, initially when she first asked me about building fireplace doors, I thought she wanted some that were actually, you know, installed, mounted into the fireplace opening, and then she started talking more and more about just, you know, the kind that just set in front of the door. So I still want to take it up there, make sure it fits, make sure it's the style that she kind of was wanting. She was showing me pictures, and it's a fireplace that's kind of, it's got some unique elements to it, and we're trying to work around those. And I had thought about, in the design of this, you can see how it's got this arched piece here. She wants the doors, what she has shown me is stuff, and she's basically said that she likes the arched top doors we're going to have. But I looked it over, and I thought about, you know, I've got the material, I could actually continue this all the way across and then divide this section up. And then I even thought about extending the blower one down here. And I don't think that's what we're going to do. This is here, the bar here. Normally, a lot of times what you do is you just run the door all the way down to the bottom, or at least up a little bit, you know, not quite so high. But because of the way the fireplace is built, it sets back, and then there's a ledge that's, I don't remember, 7 or 8 inches high, and that's where the actual fire burns. So it's got kind of an interesting little bit of a drop there. And my thought was, well, when we were talking about it initially, was we would put this higher, and then I'm thinking what I may do is this panel here will drill some very pretty little neat little holes and give it a way to draft air into the fireplace. I mean, it's gonna leak all around the edges anyways, because it's not one that seals or anything, but at least it might allow a certain amount of draft this direction. And my thought is I haven't decided exactly, but I might build it in such a way that the air kind of comes up and maybe keeps the glass clean, because there are going to be glass doors on it and stuff. Maybe keep some of the soot and creosote and all that kind of, all the stainy stuff off the glass. So that's basically what this is so far. I'll send her an email and see if she's home tomorrow for me to drive up there, and if I can, I will, and if I can't, we'll schedule another time. But I think that's it for today. Tomorrow I don't know what I'll be doing. We'll find out. But anyway, again, if anybody has suggestions on if anybody can recommend a particular plasma cutter that they think would be, you know, the biggest bang for the buck, and what would work well in my you've seen my videos, you've seen how I use them. I don't really use them for very heavy stuff. I use them for pretty much the heaviest stuff I've ever done with it was the 1/4 inch, but so I don't need a huge one. I'm not against it, but anyway, if you have a recommendation, leave a comment in the comments, and if I see it before I buy one, I'll look it over. So, until next time, bye.